So let's dig into supply chain attacks themselves. And
Yeah,
can you talk about the different components, how maybe it aligns with the various aspects of a supply chain that you talked about? You mentioned
yeah,
Equifax. Are there other good examples to give the audience an idea of these kinds of attacks and how they're orchestrated, executed, and then we'll
yeah.
talk about protection later.
Sure. So, I think the first thing to talk about is like attacks on your source code, like on that software you write category. And that's what OWASP is focused on for a long time. It's what the AppSec industry is focused on for a long time. That's kind of the traditional attacks, like, a direct SQL injection against your web application, and someone breaks in and steals your data. That's a typical attack. Uh, what we saw with Equifax was an interesting shift. Like the attackers, instead of focusing on the custom code and the application itself, they found expression language injection vulnerability in a version of struts that was widely used. So instead of having to attack each application individually, now they could just send one HTTP request to any application that was using that version of struts and completely take it over in one HTTP request. So they were able to cover lots of applications really fast. And so, that's great for the attackers. That's a force multiplier. They love that because it makes it easier for them to find targets. So that was like a nice evolution. And what we see is, like, as operating system security got harder, as it got harder to find kernel exploits, people moved to web apps, right? So now they're attacking the web apps. That was easy for a decade, really easy. But it maybe starts to get a little harder. And then people start moving to libraries. Like, oh, look, we can move to libraries and attack those. So now people are buckling down on library security, making sure their libraries are up to date and they're not using out of date, vulnerable versions. And now we're starting to see attacks on the build infrastructure. So things like, in SolarWinds, attackers attacked the CI/CD pipeline, broke in, and were able to insert a Trojan into the update that was being sent out to all their customers. So now, instead of having to go attack everyone themselves, now the attack is going out via a trusted channel, like SolarWinds update channel to all their customers. They're all getting these updates that have this malicious code in them. And sure enough, a bunch of them took the update and a bunch of them got hacked. So, it's attackers smartly adapting to changes in the ecosystem. It's not that those old attacks are going away. It's like they're adding on to the top with new classes of attacks.
Sounds like you just described maturity, though.
The attackers, yeah, they're more mature because they're
Yeah.
just like, well, we'll adapt as things as we need to. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And